Hey, what's going on YouTube? Joe here from mymetafish.com. And today I am in my living room. I don't want to show too much probably. I don't know. I'm not afraid to show my house or anything, but it's a mess. I haven't picked up or anything. I'm just doing some water changes. So I do have tanks upstairs as well as all the tanks you've seen downstairs. Hopefully we'll have time to go through the full fish room tour video here today. But I'm feeling good. I just got done with a couple-day vacation. Deer hunting here in Michigan's a big thing for us. I didn't see any deer, but I got some good R&R. And sometimes you just got to take some time to yourself, reevaluate what you're doing, and just have some time to think and clear your brain and know that everything's going to be okay. And our business is, I'm getting more into it now, so... too much preamble. Why don't we just get right into it? And I'll show you what I got going on while my flower horn here is getting his water changed. Hopefully it's not too loud. But yeah, this is my living room, and apologies if it's a mess. Bo just came in here. He likes to lay with me. So I'm in the living room, so he's in the living room too with his Minnie Mouse blanket. You say hi, Bozer? Old 12-year-old beagle. And yeah, so here's a tank. I'm going to do a water change on these guys. These are my koi angelfish, so this is one of my grow-out tanks, but I like these fish so much. I like to have them here in the corner of my living room. So just like downstairs, I like to double stack most of my tanks. You get more out of it. Double metal stands is my preferred method, and you can build them your own, but I just prefer the metal look. So this is really nothing fancy. I used to have some L37 plecos. I believe they're the 37s. They're the King Tiger plecos in here. There's still one. Shout out to Mike. He purchased the rest of them. He's more into plecos than me. So, but there was one hiding in this log. So these log decorations aren't really the best when it comes to plecos. They will get up in there. You can see some of the holes here. And this entire thing is hollow. So we couldn't get that pleco out of there. I heard him in there. And he's a real nice 3.5-inch King Tiger pleco, the yellow strain, the gold strain. But we won't get to see him today. But so I got water hyacinth up here. I'm just testing if this is going to be enough light to grow it. It's kind of melting back. You can see the roots. This is water hyacinth root. What a crazy plant. It's got huge root structure. It's awesome for the ponds. It did great outside, so I brought a few of them up here. And then I have other ones downstairs in various tanks. But yeah, these are some of my favorite koi angelfish. I just really like them. So I'm letting them grow out here. You really don't want to crowd a tank with angelfish too much, or they really slow down on growth. So I have to spread them out. This is just one of my 55-gallon tanks that I do that with. So down here, this used to have a lot of green jade shrimp. But these came in from outside. You see all the algae, so it usually does pretty well for shrimp for me. But this is a 33 long tank. So it's 12 inches deep, 4 foot wide, and very short. I think it's only, I don't know, maybe 14 inches tall. But it's kind of the perfect fit for one of these double 55-gallon stands because it gives you plenty of room, so much room in between the two tanks to work. So these are my outside grown blue orchid antlers. There's a giant Anubias Cophifolia. This Anubias I've had for a year and a half, and it was big when I got it, but it's doing amazing in here. It actually grows out of the water. You can see some of the leaves here growing out of the water. And there's another water hyacinth, water lettuce. Today I'm going to get the duckweed. I'm going to de-duckweed this tank, and all the tanks that I de-duckweed and get a net full of duckweed, you can never really get it all. I mean, you could if you really put effort into it. I feed that to all my cichlids downstairs, so it works out great. This tank pretty much just goes unseen. It's just has whatever fish I like to have in it. You don't really see it that much. The tank's on the floor, especially customers. They don't notice the tanks that are on the floor. That's why the Walmarts and the Meijers strategically place things at eye level for you. And there's a lot to be said about that. When people come over to my basement, they don't notice much unless it's at eye level, unfortunately. So this is where all my guppy grass comes from. This tank has probably made our company more money, in all honesty, than any other tank. And they say don't put a tank by a window. Look at this window. And I open it up every single day. Let me just think here. This window is pointed to the east. So it gets half sun, full sun half the day. And it just does amazing. Now when I first started this tank, it turned green. I had green water. Oh, just got to check here. I am doing a water change on this guy. So I do big water changes on my cichlids. If the cichlid's healthy, big water changes will not hurt it. So I love to do big water changes, really knock those nitrates down. But these are my purple, pink spotted, previously entered in IFGA competition guppies. They just do amazing in this tank. They're a beautiful guppy, super pretty, and they just grow, poop a ton, and feed all this guppy grass. So I've been told many times my guppy grass is the best. I got the best grass in town, so I sell big bags of it for very reasonable compared to where you get it elsewhere. There's also some other plants in here. This is a small crypt that came from Anthony Naples, and there's a bigger crypt back there. Crypts are real slow growers, but it's doing good. You can see all the leaves standing up. It's one of the brown crypts. There's another one back here. They're just slowly getting bigger. And basically that's it for this tank. It's guppy grass and crypts. And there was some pogostemon and octopus in here at one time. And down below, this tank doesn't do as good because honestly it doesn't get as much sunlight. The window stops right about here, so it gets some of the light from the back. But this has hornwort, this has pogostemon and octopus in it, and it also has guppy grass. And these are my, let me zoom in on them for you. These are my tiger antlers. And these are just cheap lights on a timer. So they go off about 8 o'clock. They're probably going to be going off pretty soon here. So great time to shoot a video. They're on for about 10 hours a day, I believe. It's just one of those digital timers. I'll show you. You can see it over here. How do I zoom in on this? So that guy right there just runs all the lights, or the 2 lights, I should say, or 3 lights. You know, they're all, my apologies, they're all just cheap lights. I can get the information if you want. I bought them off, I forget, maybe Ken's Fish. Shout out to Ken's Fish. I still buy probably about a third of my food from him. Good quality stuff to mix in. So this is my King Kampa flower horn. Shout out to Jordan Treb for getting this guy to me at a very small size. We've enjoyed him for at least a year now. When we got him, he was a little guy, maybe 2 inches. Got real nice color. I should probably groom him a little more, but he's got this 60-gallon tank all to himself. So 60-gallon, this is like 3 foot by 18 inches by pretty tall. Real nice tank for a flower horn, and he gets lots of attention. This is one of our main walkways. The kids walk by him all the time, feed him pellets. So he gets more attention than any other aquarium I have in the house. So that's probably about enough water. I just stripped my Neolamprologus cygnus, and I got all the babies out of this tank, which was very exciting. There was over 20 babies at close to 1 inch already, so they're very good parents. There's a pair of, I only have 1 adult pair of Neolamprologus cygnus. See if we can't zoom in on them. They just went through some stuff. There he goes. But super nice, Burchardi type cichlid. You've seen them before in my videos. But about once, you know, if I do a good job and keep up on water changes, I keep their tank a little bit warmer. So Python here. So we'll just stop taking out Harold's water here. So I apologize for the house being a mess, but that's what happens when you have 2 kids and you're working on schoolwork all the time, and could be worse. I've seen it worse. Me and my wife are trying to work on that. So I do have one more tank. The light's off, so I'm not going to show you that one. I got a bedroom tank with a couple killifish. So if you come over to my house, you come downstairs, and we have our MetaFish sign, same as the business cards that you'll receive if you place an order. And we don't really do much on Instagram. This is our website, YouTube, and Facebook. And every year here in Michigan, you have to register aquatic sales with Michigan DNR, so we have our yearly registration there. So we came down the stairs. We cleaned this room up a little bit. I put up a new 6-foot gladiator shelf. This is my favorite shelf, honestly, for aquariums. I was planning on putting 6-foot long aquariums on this thing, but sometimes you just have to organize. So we got our extra heater if things don't keep up down here, pool stuff for the backyard, shipping supplies, just stuff for the house because we live here too. Trying to get a little more organized, but we got rid of the pool table. I think everybody's aware of that. I need to do a whole video on this. This is a cheap crimper that works okay. I'd like to do a real review for everybody to know if it's worth your investment. It's cheap, that's the best thing about it, but it can puncture the bags, and it takes some practice to really know what you're doing. It's not like Seagrass Farms automatic crimper that you see in some of those videos. They paid a lot more money for that. Tipper Tie is the company brand from Germany that has been talked about before, but this is much more economical than a Tipper Tie machine. But I'll do a video sometime on that. So everything's doing good. Pretty much. We'll go through them super quick, okay? We got multi-shell dwellers. And again, it's getting late in the day, so I'm going to be pretty poor on names, but we're going to go pretty quick. They just keep breeding and doing amazing for us. No complaints. Added some shells. Sold a few fish. I should have taken some to the auction, so shout out to Michigan Motor City Aquarium Society down in Monroe. I wish I could have stayed for the auction. It looked like it was a great time from all the live video feeds I seen. If you went to that auction, give me a shout out. Let me know in the comments below. Me and my wife took 50 bags and got some compliments when we were dropping the bags off on the fish. Hopefully we're building a pretty good reputation, and I hope some people got some fish from that auction and are super excited about them. So if you did, give me a shout out. Let me know what you got. It's always cool to hear from locals who picked up stuff and then discover what you do just from an auction or a swap. So it's almost like free advertising. The sales might not be that good for us price wise. It's, you know, we're kind of lucky if we break even if we take stuff to an auction, because people don't realize what it costs water wise for water changes and food wise to grow these fish, plus the amount of time you have to dedicate to do that every day and get them to a healthy hobbyist quality that we're striving for. So it was an awesome auction from everything I saw. Can't wait to go to the next one. I appreciate all the volunteers who put that on. So we got water hyacinth up here. We took some of the water lettuce, so it's pretty low to the auction. I think there's too much duckweed in here. Really hard to de-duckweed this tank because it's got so many floating plants that I don't want to remove. But future project, we'll do that. We still got 2 white crayfish in here that are doing real good. They eat a lot of guppies. I see them hunting for them all the time. They got their pincers up in the air trying to wait for a guppy to swim in between them. But that's okay. These are our muck guppies. There's some beautiful ones in here though. Pretty much anything that looks off color from what we're going for ends up going in this tank. And if locals come over here, you know, I don't really mind if they hand pick guppies out of here for a couple bucks a piece if they want specific. That one's a Santa Maria, but I didn't like the color pattern. So you can get some really pretty nice fish. Yeah, that one doesn't have enough red on the bottom, is why I pulled that Santa Maria out. But yeah, it's always great to have a muck guppy tank. You can't go wrong with muck guppies. They're healthy, hardy, and you get some awesome color patterns. If that's what you're looking for, is just a mixed tank, you can't beat it. These are more of our angelfish that we had to spread out, so 20 long. We got gold and the koi blushing in here. And then down below, the last video, that's when we got ick, and it's all since cleared up. We didn't lose any of the super red pineapple swords. This tank's pretty dirty. Just hard to see in here. There's no real good lights. And then we have the jeweled godiads. So yeah, long story short, I took in some fish from a customer. The jeweled Guppies were a little more aggressive than the customer wanted for a community tank. So I said, no problem, I'll bring them back. I should have quarantined them. I put them back in the 20-gallon tank, so that's where the ick came from. And I think I mentioned in that video, we haven't had ick down here in a very long time. But I treated it with Ick-X and salt, did water changes twice, and then just let the Ick-X and salt sit. And they all cleared up amazing. Clean the gravel, you know, because ick's got a long life cycle. If you want to really eliminate it, you got to keep up on it. But they're all good now. Really happy to see that I curbed the ick. So I just moved the little Neolamprologus cygnus babies down here. Hopefully you're still sticking in. So these guys were just upstairs with mom, and now they get their own 10-gallon tank here. So beautiful fish. I love these. These are probably my favorite Lake Tanganyikan cichlid. They're a little washed out right now. Usually their body's more purple, a little bit darker. Here's some of the 2-inch. I would say 2-inch. Maybe that guy's even a little bigger. He's probably 3. But yeah, so 2 tanks of the cygnus babies growing out. And these are my super red empress. I need to get them a little bit bigger tank. They've grown really well in this 10-gallon. They've over doubled in size here, so it's time to move them on. And same old, this tank's actually purple IFGA guppies also. There's blue Moscows down here, as well as Atropinus Guppies. The Atropinus Guppies are actually not a real great tank mate for the Moscow guppies. They're a little aggressive. They're fin nippers. So my male, I don't sell the blue Moscows out of this tank because you can see they kind of have a little bit tattered tails. So a work in progress. I don't want to show that one off too much, and I'm not going fast. I got to go fast here. Sorry about the hand in front of the camera there. Zoom out a little bit. These guys just got a water change a couple days ago. These are my blue-tailed Guppies. Let's see if I can show these off a little more. I want to show off a lot more fish, but I don't do it in small video chunks. I always do full size. That's a female there. Well, anyways, I should do spotlights on certain fish. This is awfully crowded. These guys just got a big water change too. But this is just how prolific my black bar antlers are. They get extra brine shrimp all the time. But they got that big black bar running through their side. Real cheap because they're so they breed so readily. Got to get these guys a new home. Hippo Point salmon, blue golds actually spawned for me recently. These are my white labs that I was able to get for Dennis Ward. Shout out to Dennis. He's gonna make an all 6-foot white lab tank. White labs are beautiful. I totally skipped over that tank. So that's the 6-foot tank I have down here. And because I'm acting weird, they are smart. So I only have one female in this tank. And this tank is just horrible for viewing. It gets all kinds of glare. And the fish come out when I feed them, but they don't come out for customers. They're a little skittish in that way. That tank does awesome, but I'm down to one female. But Dennis is going to have an awesome white lab setup. And I'm sure he'll produce some babies from it. So these would be the red Cachis, tropheus. Probably should think about moving them on. They can grow a little bit bigger in a breeder box like that. And it keeps them from being too aggressive. When dragon bloods, blue dragon bloods, these are also dragon bloods, which a couple of them look okay from a male standpoint, but everybody's got dragon bloods now. Kind of a hybrid that's falling out of fashion, I would say. Just around here at least. These are the koi marbled angelfish. So this is my latest batch. These are the smallest ones that I have. And you can see just how packed in here they are. But they get a lot of water changes. And They're doing pretty good. I should separate them, put about half in another tank, and a few mystery snails or some green beans in here for the mystery snails. And I know there's a lot more going on in each tank that I could go over for for everybody, but time is limiting. I'm probably only going to post one video. So these are my Veil koi angelfish, the two best ones I have, and they didn't like their tank mates. So now they have a tank all to themselves and they get along great. You can see their trailers are real nice, but I'm still hoping they're gonna breed. So I have a breeding slate. That's an acrylic breeding slate. Works just as good, if not better, than the normal slate breeding slates. Pretty much anything. Angelfish are gonna lay on any surface they want to when the time comes. Another tank that customers never really see is these snakeskin orchid antlers. Beautiful antler. A couple people, these are their favorites just because they have so many patterns. The snakeskin, as well as being a small like black bar type style antler, but the snakeskin makes them really nice. Kind of a rare antler. These guys are doing awesome. I know it's going to be hard to see, but these are my names are hard. These Amica splendens, the butterfly goodid. So I just cleaned all these tanks. Brine shrimp, we're still doing 2-liter bottles a day. We did it all year long. It's a lot of work, but that's how you get the quality. That's how you grow the babies. That's how you get fish to breed. So I love the brine shrimp hatchery. It works amazing. I'll do a separate video someday on it. Maybe give you guys some ideas. If you're interested in it, let me know in the comments, and that'll motivate me to make this video. But yeah, just homegrown. I created it all. There's only one airline coming down to it. Got rid of the convicts in here. Those went to the auction. Those were pink convicts. Really pretty convicts. They had a lot of pink in them, very light colored. They got along great. I have a few venustus in here. They just got a 80% water change. So they'll be good for another month basically with that big of a water change. And 55 gallons of water for, I don't know, a dozen venustus in there. And they're not that big. The giraffe hat cichlid. So up here, what I recently did, these are the red volcano antlers, which aren't on the website, but if you're interested, let me know. They are a beautiful red antler, and I'm starting to have a pretty good production of them. I took one bag of them to the auction, interested to see who picked those up. And right below are all the babies from one of my tanks outside this summer. So I bred, they're not going to show too much color because they're still all tiny juveniles. You can see there's a lot of them in there. But these were just all the babies that came from an outside tub basically. It's an outside 150 gallon aquarium that I had nothing but red volcano antlers in. My galaxy guppies, these are probably my favorite guppy right now. Just an awesome, beautiful albino galaxy guppy. They're a little bit more harsh on their fry, so I've been trying to pull the fry out as I see them, maybe once a week, and then I bring the fry right below them. And we have fry in here and a couple little albino bristlenose plecos eating on the algae. So this tank before the auction had some cichlids, some Turkish cichlids in it. And a 5 gallon tank's not big enough for cichlids. I mean, it is, but if they start getting ornery and fight, that's why you want a bigger tank for cichlids. You can do it and change water and grow them, but they have nowhere to get away from each other with cichlids. So my goal was to make all these 5 gallon tanks, which look back in the videos because these are only hanging by the wall. So there's 250, there's 25 gallons of water plus tank weight on each one of these shelves that is connected to the wall. But I did a whole separate video on it. And by the way, these tanks are doing amazing for me. They're growing Java moss like you wouldn't believe. I took a bag of Java moss to the auction, and I'm trying to get all the cichlids out of here. So it's all live bearers, stuff that I can grow with the Java moss. Cichlids chew it up, so I have pretty strong lights for me. I'm not used to having strong lights. I don't like to pay for electricity. Because I'm trying to run a business and pay for bills here, so electricity is overhead. But these are only like 33 watt lights, but they do great for Java moss. And you can see frog bit up here. So this is a free tank next to the albino galaxies. These are more blue orchid antlers. One of my favorite antler, if they would focus. But they got the black on the bottom, blue and some red coloring in them also, but usually quite a bit of blue in the males. So they're kind of like a blue neon in my opinion, but way healthier, no disease, not like a cardinal or a neon. I'm blanking on the names because I don't really deal with those fish, but you know what I'm talking about, the cardinal tetras. I think they're not tetras though. Anyways, this is another tank of mutts. They've been doing great up here, and another reason I like having all the guppies in a tank, especially mutts, is their waste does great for Java moss. Java moss just eats up live bearer waste, so you can see how good this tank's doing. And let's take a look up here, climb up here on a ladder. So this is my frog bit. Looks like there's a little bit of duckweed mixed into that tank. But you know, all the plants that you have in a tank, they pull out nutrients. So these are not on automatic water change like my other systems, but I love these tanks almost as much as my automatic water change ones. Yeah, they're up high. Yeah, they can be a little bit of a pain to work out of, but they're really not that bad. And then you have all that room below them to do whatever you want to do. So this is my most recent addition to the fish room, and it's just working out good. I guess that's the bottom line. These are Geophagus, which are going to be going to a new home very soon. Just 2 days ago they got a big water change. That's why the bottom's cleaned up and everything. Cleaned all the filters for all 10 of these 5-gallon tanks. So I'm enjoying this a lot. I like everything I did with this setup. The only thing I would do different is you can't really automatic water change 5 gallons very easily, so I don't think there is anything I would do different. I'm really happy with this setup. So yeah, we can look at I gotta do a video on how I grow fish, raise fish in pork rind containers, because I don't know anybody else who does it. I know people who do it in 5-gallon buckets, and it's just, they're super easy to clean. If you set up a siphon with a screen on it, I can show how I do that. I'll do big water changes. Guppies are super hardy. I'll go as much as 70% water changes on these containers, and they love it. They just go bonkers when you do those big water changes. And with these small containers, super easy to do. So these are a guppy that I've kind of, I mean, I know how I made them, but they're all a little bit different. So I'm wondering if they're worth continuing that line, because they're like a gold tail for most of them. Some of them look a little different. But let me know what you think of them. They have a lot of gold in their tail, especially some of the females look pretty decent. But yeah, they're definitely a mixed guppy, but so is every guppy. Every guppy you buy at the store is a hybrid fish. But I just been growing those in the pork rind container. You can see my containers usually have a filter. It's not necessary, but it does add a little layer of protection in case you don't get to the water change in time, or you overfeed it and they don't eat all the food or something. So this is how I do dechlorinators. I got these bottles down here. I can go over it in a separate video. I just mix prime with it so that I get 1 squirt per 10 gallons. I seen that trick on Aquarium Co-op. Is one of the best hacks I think I've ever seen on his channel. So shout out, definitely. I don't know if he invented it or if he seen it on somebody else's and shared it, but maybe someday I'll share it also. These guys are super cool. These are the Doadroy Goodeids. I only have 1 pair, rare Goodeid, with the collection point, and they just do amazing in here. Their babies hide in all this Java moss, and there's no filter really. There's an air stone with a sponge pushed through the stone, so it's kind of like a filter. It's moving water through the sponge, and I know that sponge has beneficial bacteria, but there's only a pair of fish in here plus 2 guppies. The guppies are kind of diddler fish. I mean, I didn't have a place to put the guppies, so I threw them in here, and they've been living and doing great ever since. And I've actually got now, from that one young pair with collection point, probably about 10 or 12 babies. They don't have a lot of babies. You know, Guppies have large babies at birth and long gestation periods. So they're one of the live bearers the only live bearers that are really endangered in the wild. There's probably a few others. I'm not a live bearer expert because I do so many different types of fish. But they're a fish that's not going to overstock a tank. Like some of these tanks, you might say, you know, I started with a quarter of this amount, and now the tank's pretty well full. It's kind of at max capacity. These guys, they won't max things out as fast. When you get a spawn from them, it's kind of a bigger deal. They don't spawn all the time, I guess is what I'm saying. So I'm real happy. I've saved babies from 2 spawns from them, doing nothing but growing them in a pork rind container. So hopefully you find that kind of cool. I didn't even buy a sponge filter for that one because they're so low fish. But for this many guppies in a pork rind container, you know, you probably want a small sponge filter just for a backup. These are also just more babies. These are the Amica Splendid babies. And again, just growing them in a pork rind container. This is actually a cheese ball container, not even a pork rind container. And there was fish in here. Oh, I just thought this guy was super cool. He does not look... He came out of my volcano antler tank. Let me see if I can zoom in here without spooking him. Oh, he doesn't look as good as when I pulled him out, but I just think he's really cool. Super long, top and bottom. There, that's a better view of him. But what a cool looking antler, huh? So I just pulled him out because I didn't want him breeding with my red volcano antlers because his body is not full red like I'm looking for. So I pulled him out because he's a cull. Come on, come down here, buddy. But I'm thinking about breeding him with some other fish to see what comes of it. But you know, that's what's cool about breeding your own fish is you get some unique things sometimes. So I'll zoom back out. I had fish in this one, but it's just empty for now. I like to have Java moss in all of them because the more Java moss you grow for your business, that's one of the plants that's very slow growing and always in demand. It's a great plant. More koi angelfish, geophagus. This is a 5-foot long tank. It's 120 gallons. This is my tank I had to do a repair on. I grew that clump of Java moss immersed, put it in the tank. It's been just doing amazing, pulling all the nitrates out of the water. So much so that the hornwort isn't even really doing that good. Even with this highly stocked of a tank, the plants are just pulling everything out. And this is Valsinaria. It's growing low to the bottom because there's not a lot of light in this tank. And I recently my light burned out for this tank actually. I need to pull it out. Oop. But yeah, I just mounted one on the hood. So there's also fish down here. These are blue dolphins. There's one white lab male in there who got beat up before, so he's kind of taken residence in one of my quarantine tanks. So quarantine tanks don't have to be pretty, they just have to be functional and do what's needed for the fish. So that's one of my white labs there, and he eats every time I feed the tank. He probably gets more food than he used to. And totally healthy now, totally came back. And these are just some blue dolphins. Beautiful fish, one of my favorite cichlids, one of the cichlids I started with. I don't know how to go fast in these videos, I apologize. So these are yellow-tailed swordtails. I love this fish too. These are wild caught, collection point, I should say, no longer wild caught, but I think they're prettier than the ones you see in the store, in my opinion. This is what a swordtail really should look like. Multiple colors, they got the pink bars through them, blue sheen, and that yellow sword just looks gorgeous on the big males. And this is one of the fish where the males will show their swords, in my experience, where a lot of swordtails will try to cover it up and pretend like they're females and be subdominant and not show their swords. These guys all show their swords, so it's really easy for me to pick a pair out of this tank, guaranteed male and a female, and ship them off to you. I think they're pretty cool. So they produce very well for me. They're really nice on their babies, honestly, for a swordtail. Swordtails can be kind of ornery on their babies. These guys are really good. So yeah, I didn't even make a top for this tank. It's just a lid from another bin, but it works fine. They got 2 sponge filters in the back, and I like to use some Easter grass. I had some Wasser tang in this tank. It didn't really do too good. Is that it right there? Yeah, so there's some Swasser tang growing in here. Actually, it's looking pretty decent. It's mixed in with Easter grass, though. It's one of those plants that you don't really want to mess with. Once you start blowing it around, in my experience with my water, it has a tendency to die back. So these guys have algae covering the front of their tank. I know it's not too good to look at, but there's VC10s in here, as well as Interruptus Mabuna cichlids. Another great cichlid. Kind of like a Demasoni. The males will turn black with a blue coloring. There's no males in here, which is really surprising to me because I have males in the other room. I'll show you. I'll try to show you. This is where I use my spawning mops to grow my rainbow fish. And as you can see, there's Java moss in every tank. It just makes fish feel more comfortable. It gives them an extra forage source. The more Java moss, the better. So I don't sell that much of it. I usually only sell a bag here and there because I want to put it in all my tanks. But you can't do it with cichlids. These guys are getting a new home real soon. These are Praecox rainbow fish. They were born on teeny tiny eggs on that spawning map, fed micro worms and vinegar eels until they could eat baby brine shrimp. And once they start eating baby brine shrimp, they really start growing a lot faster. So little Praecox rainbow fish, homegrown, super healthy. Those would be a nice fish for somebody, depending on when they want to buy them. This guy jumped from this breeder box to this breeder box, so he gets a breeder box all to himself with a few mystery snails. And yeah, that's this tank. So if you look, everything's double stacked except this tank, but there's tanks underneath, which is not a good idea. I don't recommend it. I've shown that in other videos, but I blew through the bottom of this, so they're leaning, they're slanted, but we don't need to go over all that. I got blue dolphins down here. Zoom back in. So blue dolphins, that was my favorite, most prolific fish for a long time, so I'm still moving the stock on these. These are Dimidochromis strigatus. It's a big predator hat, kind of like the Malawi eye biter. They have a bad reputation. Hey, thanks Chris Grazonix for the comment on the Neolamprologus cygnus. He just messaged the group and added a comment and showed up while I'm recording the video. So thanks. That's a super cool fish in my opinion too. So yeah, this is just a 75-gallon tank full of Dimidochromis, and it's a cool tank. It's a really cool fish. They're very unique, but you know, they're not. You don't want to put them with something too passive. They can be a little ornery. I mean, it all depends. Cichlids are all ornery. Anybody who's kept cichlids knows the struggles. Kenya, you're doing awesome. I thought this was mostly females, but as they're getting bigger, all the males are turning yellow. So I took all the dominant males out of here, sold them, and kind of wanted to have medium-sized fish because these guys will get 4.5 inches. They'll get pretty big. So I want to get the big males out of there. Plus the big males are super pretty, bright yellow like this. So yeah, now more males are showing their color just like any other tank. This is a 110 gallon, so it's a very tall tank. 210s right next to each other. One of these was getting beat up earlier today, so my wife moved one of these Pinoy blue veil-tail angelfish in here. These are really beautiful fish. I can't wait for them to spawn for me. But they've tried my patience. This guy right here was getting beat up pretty bad. So he's a newcomer and he seems to be getting along with the group just fine, which is nice when you have a big tank and you can have enough fish where they're not going to pick on each other. If you have too few, angelfish can be a little ornery sometimes too. They're a cichlid, so you just have to know how to handle it. And overstocking tanks, if that's what you're going for, or if you're not going for it, get down to a pair if you're breeding them in a smaller tank. These are my sunshine bangas. Dennis Ward might be getting some of these. I'll definitely give you my best ones here, Dennis. One of my favorite, comes from a real strong line, sunshine bangas. That's probably the best male at the moment. I think I sent 4 or 5 males from this tank to David Cox on the other side of the state. Appreciate the big order, buddy, and I hope I probably shouldn't even tell anybody. You fell off your porch with a box of fish. Those were heavy boxes, man. 50-pound boxes. Those were the biggest boxes I've ever shipped. So if anybody doesn't know, if you go over 50 pounds, you get charged way more. So I shipped him 2 50-pound boxes. Try to use as much water as I can for the health of the fish. Just, the more reliable. That's why I have 2 filters in every tank. You do whatever you can for the safety of the fish. So they were heavy boxes, and they were big orders too. He got a lot of fish. You got a lot of nice sunshine bangas. Hope you're happy, buddy. And it sounded like you were okay in your reply to me, but yeah, sorry about that. Funny story, you made me laugh telling me you fell off the porch with one of the boxes. So we won't go over anything too much. Lots of stuff going on, lots of breeder boxes. We're only into this video a little bit, but hopefully you're sticking with us and this is entertaining enough for you. This whole room, for anybody who's tuning in for the first time, which is probably quite a few people because I haven't posted a video in a long time. Summertime was hard for me to get motivated, and I'm still trying to get motivated, honestly. These tanks are not in the condition that I like to have them in, as you'll see, but that doesn't mean we haven't been moving stuff and working as the best we can. These are yellow Calvis from Lake Tanganyika. Awesome fish. I wish I could get another spawn from them. I have to work on the parents, but just a prehistoric looking cool fish, and they're already getting some of the yellow in their fins and everything. So moving over breeder boxes, these are those not Atropinus, the Dodroi Guppies with the collection point that I got. So these are the babies that I just rescued a week ago from that pork rind container or cheese ball container. They're the same thing, right? This one's dirty, but this guy's a jerk. He's a Lake Victorian Christmas Fulu. He's probably almost 3 inches already, but he went crazy and he chased all of his females out of the tank. Everybody who was in the tank he tried to kill in this little breeder box, and this is what happens to him overnight. There's not supposed to be fish in this 180-gallon tank. Here, let me zoom out. But now the tank's full of Christmas Fulus, and they're not fun to try to get out of here with all the plecos. But again, another project. I got to go through these 180-gallon tanks, get all the Christmas Fulus out of them. This is where I grow the plecos, and this is where I have the majority of my breeder boxes for smaller fish. So the breeder boxes are constantly cycling water from the 180-gallon tank, which is on an automatic water system, and it works out great. It's been a really good addition to the fish room. When I thought of this idea, I didn't know if it was going to work very good, but the fish grow great having all that extra water reservoir, because I think it's underrated, the hormones that fish put out. You'll read about it. Some people will talk about it in podcasts. Bristlenose plecos especially. If you try to grow too many of them, they release some hormones in the water. I don't know the science behind it, but it really stunts their growth. That's why you have to cycle a lot of water. You have to spend a lot of money on water to grow these things, because they'll stunt each other's growth with that hormone to try to grow bigger than the other fish, is my understanding of it from a science standpoint. But that's why these breeder boxes work great, because they're constantly cycling water from a large source that gets automatic water changes. So just like these guys, these are, I believe, the Dodroi Guppies with the collection point. I'd have to double check, but like, got a male and a female right here. And the males are super pretty, super shiny. They're kind of like a red-tailed Guppies. So I could do a guaranteed male and female from these, and they've grown They've probably times 6 in size all summer and do amazing in this little breeder box. And I say little, but I think they're about a half gallon. So, but then you look at a tank like this, and this is overstocked. I know it, but these fish are still growing. They eat great, they get along great. Sometimes if you move a group of fish, these aren't aggressive. These are half cichlids. They're actually a mix. Shout out to Michelle. Look how big your babies have gotten. She bred a ruby red peacock with a red empress, and I've been raising the babies ever since. So those are going to be a cool little hybrid, and I like hybrids because they're really a hardy fish. When you start breeding genetics too long, sometimes the fish become less healthy. It's the same with dogs and cats. If you get a purebred beagle, he's going to have more genetic problems than a mutt dog. Same thing starts happening with fish. So I'm not a hybrid guy, I'm not a hybrid guy. I'm just saying there's kind of a place for both. It's kind of like mutt dogs in a world. But I'm not specializing in mutt fish, but I do have them and I do see the appeal of them. Multicolor Victorias with a Lulupi. There's also a names are hard right now. There's a couple more like Tanganyikan fish up there. These are my Taiwan reef breeders that don't breed for me, so I have to tear this tank apart and do something about it. All these tanks get automatic water changes. My deep water haps over here are going to get a new home pretty soon. Are you holding? No, she's not holding. But what a beautiful fish on this deep water hap. I wish they would breed for me, because they are gorgeous. However, they're not breeding yet. And it's been a while too, so they got a 90 gallon all to themselves. I'm going to repurpose it and move some of the other cichlids in here to grow, because they're not doing anything for me. And if I change things up, sometimes all it takes is to change. If I put them in a 40 gallon, maybe they'll breed for me. These guys always hide. These are the tropheus red cachis. I've gotten some different babies from them. There's more Heidi babies down here. Shout out to Top Gun Aquatics, Rich. Yeah, they're doing good still. Appreciate the trade we made for live bears. That was quite a while ago, a year and a half, so hopefully I see you again soon. Hopefully the business is going good. These are more Geophagus steindachnerii with my breeder, which I haven't had time to focus on them. Super red pineapple swords. Again, let's zoom in on them. They are a pretty nice fish. I have a place in my heart for all my fish, but I really like them. They're a really nice swordtail. So I bred them a couple times, but these guys are really rough on their babies, and they're in there with big Geophagus, who would probably suck up the babies too. Down here, I've been trying to breed some Lulupis. It's not really working for me, so we won't really go over that tank. There's only 2 Lulupis in there. This is my bottom 180 gallon. I do run a heater in this tank because the angelfish didn't really like being on the bottom. The lower a tank is to the ground, the colder it's going to be. And even though I heat the whole room here, these angelfish just kind of needed a little more heat to grow better and be healthier. They just weren't, I could tell, you can tell they weren't thriving when you start growing angelfish. You can tell their behavior. So these guys are nice and healthy now, and they eat a lot of food. And this is also where I cycle all my filters. So I just pull a filter out of here and add a new filter if I ever need to start up a fresh tank. So right behind me are the tropheus chipimbis. They're doing awesome. Babies. They're such good parents, and tropheus usually aren't good parents, but there's over 20 babies in this tank, and I should probably tear the tank apart and get all these baby chipimbis out of here. It's another rare tropheus. I raised the adults in this tank. I raised from a group of 7 I started with, which isn't enough. They eventually started killing each other, but before they did, I got 2 batches of babies. Well, more than that. I ended up with 40 babies. I raised the 40 babies into this colony, which I'd have to do a count. I'm not sure the count, because I have lost a few, but not too many. There's probably over 30 in here still. and they're packed in a 90-gallon tank. But they're really being nice to their fry, probably because I feed them quite a bit. I'll show you the feeding in a different video, but I feed them different algae pellets. So more breeder boxes, more breeder boxes. There's a Julia Chromis just went and hid from you. These are the white labs that I managed to catch out of the tank. What a pain. These guys are such good hiders in the crushed coral. But I ended up with a few more white lab babies. My phone is probably about to die. This has been a long video. I hope you're enjoying it. These are the Interruptus. So this is definitely a male. There's a couple males in here starting to turn black and blue. Like I said, like a demasoni. But in my experience and opinion, these guys are less aggressive for a Mabuna species than like a demasoni. Granted, I don't have a lot of experience with demasoni. These are white-tailed ACI. This is my best group, and I have an albino here too. I know, John, we made a deal. You wanted 7 of these guys because I took white-tailed ACIs to the auction. Let me know when you can come over and pick up 7 of them. And if not, these are the last ACI I have, and they're, my opinion, better than the ones I already took to the auction. So, nice fish. Hard to see anything, but these are more of the ruby red and red empress hybrids, so I have a lot of them. But what's kind of interesting is some of them are starting to look like OBs. So like this guy right here, this is a red empress with a ruby red, but he's got an OB color pattern. And very few of them have that orange blotched color pattern. But I'm looking forward to growing that guy out, especially because red empress are real mellow fish. And I just like them in general, so if I can grow some OB red empresses, I think that'd be pretty cool. These are Fire Ugandas. This might be the last batch of Fire Ugandas I ever create because the moms are not looking too good. Dad's been pretty aggressive to them, and I think they're just done getting pregnant. They're old. I bought them as adults, and I've had them for 2.5 years now. So they're in here with some super red bristlenose plecos. So I have bristlenose plecos in most of the tanks. I breed them in the other room. We're not going to get to the other room because this video is almost an hour long. I'm about to lose battery. So we'll just finish up this room and we'll do a separate video of the whole other room, which is a pack full of tanks with automatic water change also. I want to get these totes done. These are full of guppies. And then I can have my cooler back. But this is what happens when you bring home fish from an auction and you don't have a place for them. What's really nice is I have extra taps, and I sell these online too, the metal air valves. I don't have a ton left, so if you want some, order them up. But I sell them cheaper than anybody else, including Aquarium Co-op. And also, if you have PVC pipe, you can just tap into it whenever you need. So I just threw totes down on top of a cooler. Crushed coral in the bottom of the totes. These have been running for 9 months now. Haven't lost hardly any fish. When I first got them, I lost a couple, but now they're doing amazing. And these box filters are my #1 favorite. Hopefully I start selling those online in the future, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not too much has changed. These are still my tiger antlers. Had a couple orders for those. Really appreciate the orders. Awesome. Still growing them in 2 tanks here, as well as upstairs. So I actually have 4 tanks of the tiger antlers because they are one of my favorite antler. But I've been raising them for a lot longer, so they might not be my favorite, but they were at one time. They are a gorgeous antler. Super cool. So I don't know. Now they kind of are turning into my favorite again. They're looking good lately. More of the purples. I really need to sort through them and make sure that they all look the way that I want them to look. Those are the purple IFGAs. Down here are some blue Moscows. Some of them look pretty good. Looks like they just had a batch of babies. Lots of little babies in the background. So I took a bag of these to the auction. Yeah, blue Moscows. They're alright. These are some of my Santa Maria antlers. Look at that one. Long fin Santa Maria antler right there. A lot of them are starting to get those long fins, which is pretty cool. But this is a standard Santa Maria without the 2 long trailers on top. So this is my breeder Santa Maria antler tank. I have sorted this tank twice for quality. I need to do it again, obviously, because it's pretty packed. But this is where my best Santa Marias come from. Not that any of the tanks are too bad. They breed really true for me at this point. These are my Lake Antinjo boisii rainbow fish. So a lot of males in this tank, and for the size they are, they got a lot of color. So they love it in here. Just lots of plants. Look at all the Java moss in all these tanks. So there's not as much room for the fish to swim, but they love the Java moss. All these 10 gallons get automatic water change. Comes in from the back. Right there. And these are Lemion fasciata. It looks like I have a pregnant one. Finally, I've been growing these fish for a long time. And they're in here with what I consider muck guppies. This is a strain of guppy I was working on at one time, and I've given up because I can't get them to breed very true. They were blue-red metallic guppies, they were really pretty. I thought they looked like a transformer, but you can tell they don't all look the same. And I was really struggling. I didn't have enough time to work on all the fish I have here, so I kind of gave up on them. These guys need to get their Java moss moved. I ripped a couple sections off of this one for the auction. That's why it's not looking the best. But these are more snakeskin orchid endlers. Geez, I forget the name of these guys. I need to go look it up and label the tank and remember it. But another live bear, Lemion. No, those are the Niger fasciata. Perugier? I'm sorry. I don't know. But I thought they were super cool. I brought them back from Indianapolis. So that was a long drive for me, and that was the first time I've seen that fish. And these are also black bar endlers. So the black bar endlers, they are very prolific. And they are in here. Some of these tanks have duckweed. Some of them have frog bit. Oop. That one has frog bit, so you can kind of see the frog bit here. I mean, it's basically a bigger version of duckweed, and it reproduces slower, so it doesn't take over a tank quite as fast. I actually have to work to keep frog bit in a lot of these tanks, and this would be duckweed, so a smaller version. And I feed the duckweed to the cichlids. This tank has absolutely nothing. So some tanks have floaters, some don't. And yeah, that's basically it. I got my blue gold cichlids here. I took a couple of the nice males. They're finally starting to color up for me, and they're a beautiful hap. These are the Protomylus spilinatus. So this is a male here. He's looking like he's going to be next in line, but he's just starting to get a little bit of that color. Blue head, blue top, and real like goldish orange bottom. I think they're beautiful. They're kind of like the Taiwan reef. They're the same Protomylus family. And these are some mutt cichlids that I really need to move up from the bottom, because I think a couple of these Taiwan reefs would sell to local customers. They're a little big for me to want to ship them. But again, if it's not in their field of view, they don't really notice it. So they come here and they notice this tank. They never even look down at these fish. And I get it. This tank's nice and brightly lit. I actually have an actual aquarium light on this tank, which is pretty rare in my fish room. Most of it is just nothing. I mean, there's no lights over there. That tank's pretty nice. I mean, some of them are okay, but it's like half and half, basically. The boisii are doing really good. A lot of holders she's holding right now. She's got a mouthful of endangered tropheus boisii eggs, so I should probably strip her soon, because these guys will eat their fry. They're not quite as nice as the Chipimbi group I have, and I don't think it's a species thing on whether or not they eat their fry. I think it's about stocking the tank. So yeah, still loving my boisii. There's two holders that I'm seeing right now. That one in the back, she's definitely holding, trying to hide from me. She knows the drill. If I notice her, I'll probably take her babies. but she might actually be letting them loose to get a little food right now. She might be long-term holding. But yeah, I don't mess with it too much. Went through, cleaned it all not too long ago, but I didn't scrub the sides because I'm not selling out of that tank. I don't really care if the algae and beneficial bacteria grows on the front of that tank. But anyways, that's basically it. I got one bucket of guppies here. And honestly, this bucket of guppies, what I'll do is I always have extra water going for some of my more finicky tanks. So if I do a big water change on a finicky like Lake Tanganyikan tank, I'll use this water that I have bubbling right now because I know that it has no chlorine and I don't have to add dechlorinator. So that's the reason that I keep these buckets down here, and I'll fill them with a Python hose when I need to. So like this one's empty. When I get a couple of them empty and I have free time after feeding all the fish and doing my maintenance, I'll fill them up. But with these guppies, same thing. I just treat it like an aquarium basically. And these are pretty fish. If I can grab one here. Oh, they're lively today. Lively fish. But yeah, they don't look that good out of the water. But it's super easy to grow them in 5-gallon buckets. I gotta show you how I do it. I could just, easy enough to explain. I'll just take the filter out of there. Maybe I'll do a video someday. Throw it in another one of these buckets. It's already dechlorinated because it's bubbling. The chlorine escapes at the surface with a gaseous exchange. And then I just dump that bucket of guppies, and they'll have poop on the bottom. This bucket was recently changed. And I do 100% water change. I dump them into a net, throw them in the next bucket. So they got 100% water change. They grow super bright, big. Yeah, it's kind of a lot of work because actually it's not. You know, you can let them go for a few weeks and they love 100% water changes. My guppies do, at least. I'm not telling everybody to try that, but I like big water changes with healthy fish. If you're buying pet store fish and you're just trying to keep them alive and they're fighting diseases and just shipping damaged them, maybe they got ammonia burn in their lungs at one point in life, because they won't ever fully recover from that. Their lungs will always be scarred and they'll be a weaker version of what they could be if they never had that issue. So every time you ship a fish, especially the fish that are coming in through wholesalers, they're doing it as cheap and economic as possible with chemicals. And I use methylene blue sometimes. It does help a ton. So if you get fish with a little bit of blue tint in the bag, it really sedates them and just makes their trip a lot easier, in my opinion. So it's really not the chemicals, but that's why a lot of people say only do 10 to 20% water changes, because you don't want to shock your fish. But if you have healthy fish who are like growing and thriving, you can do big water changes, unless it's something like a Lake Tanganyikan species where, for me at least, I have hard water, but it's not hard enough. Lake Tanganyika loves high pH water. So I don't do big water changes on those, even though they're healthy fish. But for most fish, like angelfish and guppies and juvenile cichlids, if you got healthy hobbyist grown fish, you can do big water changes on them, and that just makes your life so much easier because you can knock out nitrates that are built up in your water. If you do an 80% water change, you've knocked out 80% of your nitrates. If you do a 20% water change, that hardly did anything, and you're going to have to do that 20% water change 4 more times to equal my 80% water change. And that's just a lot of extra work. Hauling hoses, risk of contamination, if you're moving that hose between tanks all the time, if you have multiple tanks, that is. But there's just a lot of things you have to try for yourself and see what works for you. But that's how we do it around here. I've been rambling. I like to ramble, and I'm feeling pretty good after my vacation. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below, and we'll go over the next fish room next time. It's in pretty good shape. Got a lot of really nice fish over there too. And take care. Check out the website. And we're probably not going to be shipping much because I'm getting back into excited about fish. But honestly, the shipping services with Black Friday right around the corner, maybe even here by the time you're watching this video, Christmas, all the carrier services, UPS, USPS, FedEx, they suck. And I can't ship fish and if you place an order, I'll still try to get it to you as long as the temperatures aren't too cold. But it makes it a lot more stressful for me, for the fish. Makes it more expensive for the heat packs and to make sure things are as well insulated as possible. So I hope you're loving the hobby, and we'll start shipping fish again as soon as we can. And we are right now, so we'll see what happens. I haven't cut off shipping yet, but it's coming. So anyways, so much to talk about. Love you all. Stay fishy. Take care. Bye now.